As we fall, get it because it's fall or autumn where I'm from, further into spooky season, stories of the most haunted locations start to appear. Folks start to use beeping machines and clicky devices to demonstrate paranormal activity. And as an ex-spiritualist, this stuff absolutely fascinates me. Do you have a most haunted location near you? Have you experienced something paranormal and know for sure that it was ghosts? Is there life after death? Give us a call and let us know because the show is starting now. Hello and welcome to another episode of Truth Wanted. I am your host, Jon the Skeptick. This is the live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time, where we talk to people about what they believe and why. And if you'd like to give us a call, you can at 1-512-991-9242 or through your computer at tiny.cc/calltw. Truth Wanted is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. Before we get started in the show, we want to give you last week's results of the We Want the Truth, or WWTT segment. So last week we asked you, what is an untrue thing that people say all the time? And here are some of our favorite answers. At number 3, Jason Techlord, an untrue thing that people say all the time. Hey, nice to meet you. Maybe that's just him. And number 2, Mark McG. What is an untrue thing that people say all the time? Life is short. False. It's the longest thing that you will ever do. That's true. And the number 1, favorite one from Scott M. An untrue thing people say all the time. You're the best I've ever had. Well, I'm sorry, Scott, but that does get said. No, it doesn't. Never gets said to me. The prompt this week. Complete this sentence. You know you're screwed when your horoscope says blank. And we've got JL Warren with us this week, but I'm going to introduce you in a second. What would your answer be if you were asked that?
If I was asked, you know you're screwed if your horoscope says, given the nature of these things, you'd be screwed if your horoscope said, reply hazy, try again.
Like you're shaking a magic 8-ball? Yeah, right. I think mine would be, you should have died yesterday. No, be screwed then. Well, and since we're talking right now, JL, we have a guest every week on the show, and this week is no different. We've got JL Warren. JL, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Tell us all the stuff.
Oh, personal questions. I don't know what to do. What do I say? I run a channel here on YouTube. I run the channel Bridge the Divide, where I examine irrational beliefs, the irrational behaviors that often follow, and how with education, rationality, and reason, we can bridge the societal divides they create. I do response content to theists, and I talk with them about what they believe and why, and, to try to find ways that we can, coexist, to be as cliche as that bumper sticker is. We do share space in this world. We do share space in this country. We have to find a way to operate together. And I think too many conversations kind of like put a hamper on that, or they impede that progress. And I think that moving forward together will be the way that we can be the most productive. So that's what I aim my channel towards.
Is there like anything that you like to do more than anything else? Do you like to talk about one subject more than any other?
Specifically, I dig philosophy. I really, okay. I like it to an extent. I'll say that I do. I think that philosophy works a lot. It's good to understand how we reason and the best ways to reason about things. So I try to look at things from that perspective. But I love talking about science. I love talking about the various different fields, and I try to work with the best people that I can find in those fields so that I can communicate these things the best way I can.
And do you get out? Do you get out as well as sitting in your little booth and talking about stuff? Do you get out and interact with people, or is it all on the YouTubes?
Yes, I do try to be a positive force in my community here in my very, very small little rural town that I live in. Living in a rural town is really interesting. It provides interesting opportunities to interact with you say very, very niche groups because there's not a lot of outside influence. So you get to see the little microcosms that pop up and interacting with them and bringing a kind of like new perspective to things because they may not be aware of those things. And so bringing new perspectives has elicited some really intriguing interactions. And so I think I do my best to be a force for positive, a force for change, a force for positive change in the community, make people aware of these things, have these conversations. And, if I'm not doing that, I'm here on the YouTubes doing content, being glib, but being serious at the same time.
That's the best way to be, I think.
Yeah.
And we were talking pre-show about you went to a flat Earth convention. Now, like in the UK, I don't know, and I don't live in the UK anymore. I've moved to the States. But when I was there, I was very unaware of anything like a flat Earth convention because I feel like in the UK, it's just almost a given. That it's not flat,
right?
But it seems like in the US they have all of this. Like, well, we've got a flat Earth convention, we've got conventions for X, Y. What's it like going to something like that? Oh,
okay. So you'd think it would be like just second nature, common sense, like that. The evidence that we have, mathematics, however, natural sciences, photographs. But I was actually a little surprised. You'd think going into the things. It was back in 2019. I went to this thing, and you anticipate that a lot of them are going to have some like preconceptions, some like really, really hard preconceptions to break through. But that actually wasn't. I found that wasn't really the case. What I found was actually a little sadder than I anticipated. And I came away a lot more sympathetic because many of these individuals were disenfranchised. They were angry. They had at some point, felt victimized in their life or had been victimized by grander forces, whether it be the government or however it might be. And they found themselves alone and looking for a community. And unfortunately, the community that they happened to latch onto was one that made them feel the most special, and that happened to be flat Earth. So I found out that was more of a common theme than the deep conspiratorial thinkers that jump into this, is that they kind of accept the conspiracy as a part of being a part of the group. So like the reach out for community came first. And I thought that was really, really important to point out, to really get to change my understanding that there's a little bit more to this, a little bit more. I think of it an issue that we could address more directly than just saying the Earth is round, you're stupid, get over it. It's like, no, there's something deeper here. And I came away a bit more understanding and a bit more sympathetic to it. I mean, it's round, it's not flat, but I mean, we can have that conversation.
Right. Oh, that's nice. And I feel like that's something that isn't a thing for us folks who are skeptical and non-believers. And you would think there's not a huge community out there to be involved with, but actually there is. There are conventions that we can go to and meet like-minded people, and we don't have that. Right. Oh, we've got all these strange things to believe as well. We just question everything. But I would like to anybody out there, I would encourage you to go and get involved in a community, because even if it's a flat Earth community, and you can go and meet some people and have a good time. They're great places.
That's the one thing that gets me. It's that need for socialization, that need for community, that need for a support system. It's so vitally important to each and every single one of us, just as people. And one thing that got me, that sympathy I felt is kind of one of the inspirations behind my channel, is like, we can find common ground there, because there's something that I understand there. It's not just reality denial. It's just a need for others to be accepted and, to be acknowledged, and that's so important to all of us. And then I realized here in small towns like I live in, there's more of a flat Earth community than there is an atheist community or a non-believer community, or even an agnostic community. And I was like, that's something that can be built. It's weird that there's more support out there for like more inclusivity or, support for flat Earth communities than there is for atheist communities, especially in small areas. And I figure that's one thing that I can do, that I can help bring awareness to.
And so, since it is spooky month as well, and we're all skeptical around it. Well, I think we're all skeptical. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't know. But have you got anything like that going on? Just for like an example, here I live in Kentucky, and the people here absolutely believe in ghosts and spirits and all this stuff, to the point where people regularly go to buildings with these machines that make little whirring sounds and are convinced that it's a ghost trying to speak to them or something paranormal. Do you have anything like that around you?
Around where I am, no. Oh, well, okay, none that I'm aware of. But I would not. I would not go out. I would not just simply say that they don't exist here. Obviously, there are some paranormal groups around. There are some out of the major cities, the major metropolitan areas, like Oklahoma City. Like those areas definitely do have their own kind of dedicated groups. But I will say there is a ridiculous amount of history around here. A lot of ancient, or I would not say ancient, but a lot of very old towns, a lot of old ruins, a lot of ghost towns that probably get a lot of attention, more than I'm currently aware of. I do know that in Kansas, there's a lot more kind of, I would say, more people are aware of some areas like Stull, Kansas is a really, really big hotspot. So, but here in Oklahoma, I think it's a little bit quieter. I mean, there's some smaller areas people know, some like old abandoned mansions or some old graveyards, but I'm sure that there's some people out there that believe in that stuff and investigate it.
Good. And I think they need to, because if they're going to come and say, I've got proof of it, they need to be able to show it. So, and what is your background? Are you an ex-believer, or have you always been non-believer?
No, I was actually born and raised and confirmed in the faith. So my family was in the faith. My dad's side was more of the fundamentalist evangelical, probably. Back then, there wasn't really, I wouldn't say, we would say that they were extremists today. We'd probably say that they were more in line with the new IFB. But that was my dad's side. But my mother's side has always been Methodist. And so I was born and raised and confirmed in the Methodist faith. And it wasn't until I was around, I would say 13 years old, 13, maybe 14, when I started asking questions, and it's because, and I could actually, it's so weird that you asked this, but I can actually thank my mother, who is still a devout believer, as to why I did that, because my mother always, pounded into my brothers and my brothers and I's head, if something doesn't make sense, ask questions. Always be willing to ask and never be afraid to ask questions. And so when things in the church, in the ideology, didn't line up, they didn't make sense, I would go asking questions, even if some individuals didn't want me to ask those questions. And so if they couldn't answer them, or the answer was kind of like a hand wave, I would go looking for the answer somewhere else. And eventually, slowly over the period of like the next 10 years, it kind of like, once you start poking at it, it doesn't really hold up very long. So
right. And the reason, so I asked that because I was trying to, segue into getting some calls about this. But I'm not a believer. I was never a believer in gods, but I did hold strong for a long period of my life the belief in the afterlife and the paranormal. So did you hold on to that as well after you started stepping away from faith, or did you go, it's all terrible, I don't believe any of it?
Well, I can say that how it kind of shook out for me is that the whole thing, like the whole theology behind it, was slowly eroding away, just piece by piece. You go from like a devout member of a particular denomination, then you kind of like relegate yourself to like non-denominational Christian, then you're kind of like spiritual but non-affiliated, and you just kind of like whittle it down until you get to a certain point, so you've completely deconstructed and deconverted away. The kicker for me was not so much an afterlife or even the threat of a hell, and so like all those things that they kind of psychologically kind of like, hammer into you when you're young, those things just kind of slipped away. But what really got me, and this kind of shocked me, was when I completely deconverted away from it, I had this kind of epiphany moment when I recognized that I have always been 100% responsible for every action and inaction in my life, for all the things I chose to do and not do. Every time I chose not to get involved, I was responsible for all those moments, because, you can hand wave them away. God has a plan, God works in mysterious ways, all the little platitudes that kind of get you out of your responsibility of being a member of your community. And so when that hit me, it hit me like a truck. It hit me like a ton of bricks, and I almost ran screaming back to religion, because I almost couldn't deal emotionally or psychologically with the weight of the responsibility of my own life until I recognized thankfully, I had a very good support structure. I got very lucky that way. I had a friend help me to realize that responsibility was empowering. And over time, I recognized that being responsible, acknowledging that, allowed me to be not only a more impactful and more aware person in my community, but it overall just made me a better person. I was more involved in people's lives. I was more involved in my own life, more involved in my loved ones' lives. I was more aware of other people and what other people needed. It made me more, I guess it allowed me to fully embrace my empathy instead of like kind of like turning it down, you know, and handing it off somewhere. Overall, just made me a better person because suddenly it was no longer about me and what I could or, you know, what I couldn't do. It was about what I can do at any given moment and how those actions impact others. And that was the big kicker.
Huh. That's interesting. I like that. And I almost feel the same. Although because I didn't have that God belief, I've always had like, well, this is you and this is what you have to do. But there was always that little part of but when I die, I might become a ghost and I might be able to do this. You know? So there was always that just in the background. But it took me a while to step away from that. I was terrified of the dark growing up, and I would have to go room to room to turn on the lights and then go back because I was so worried about seeing someone. And I had experiences when I was younger, and which I can, you know, now attribute to brain function. But have you had anything like that, which would be a nice thing to talk about, because then we can probably encourage some calls to talk about these paranormal experiences. But have you experienced something paranormal?
Okay, so see, it's such an odd question, because have you experienced a thing that's paranormal? Well, if I experience something, then obviously there's some sort of naturalistic interface with it. I saw it with my eyes, or I heard it with my ears. So to what degree can we say it's paranormal? Now, have I experienced some things that I have not been able to explain? Only twice in my life have I experienced something I couldn't explain. One of them was a coincidence. You know, it was a coincidence, but you know, it's one of those coincidences that I think at the time, because at the time it was after my father had passed away, and there was a coincidental moment that took place at my place and my mother's place that was just very, very odd. I think because of our emotional kind of like the heightened level of our emotions, grief does really crazy things. Right. I think we kind of like, it's like, oh, how could this be? Like my mother took it as a sign. Absolutely. I, however, did not. I was like, that's a pretty wild coincidence. That's a pretty wild coincidence. The other one, unfortunately, I have no explanation. I have no real explanation for. I could posit one, but I did see something in the sky one night over Texas, and it was a light in the sky that appeared, and it kind of like drifted hazily through the night sky, you know, just like this, you know, very, very oddly, and then blinked out.
For those that can't see, JL was like wiggling his finger all over the screen, like it was moving in a strange way. Okay.
Right. So I have no idea what that was. I have not seen anything technology-wise that could replicate that. I have not seen it replicated anywhere. I do not know. So, but I know that, you know, it was one night in Texas, it was clear night, and then I saw that. You got me. So 2 events in my life, that one an extreme coincidence, the other one unexplained.
Wow. I have one that sticks out in my memory of a man walking through a door, through a closed door. I now attribute it to a very traumatic childhood and brains doing some very silly things. But at the time, I have never been more scared in my entire life than when I saw that man walk through the door.
How old were you?
7 or 8, so young. So kids' brains are still growing and doing weird things, you know, and we fill gaps, and, you know, I may have just woken up, and so it might be in a slightly dream state as well. You know, there's plenty of natural stuff to explain it all. But at the time, I was terrified, and that started my fear of the dark from that age. But I get it, man. Well, it's great to have you on the show. We will get some calls. But before we do, we need to shout out our patron of the week. Every week we get to shout out a patron that donates through tiny.cc/patrontw for supporting the show. And this week's patron of the week is Neil the 604 Atheist. Of course, thank you, Neil. And thank you to everyone else who contributes to the show. Okay, I think it's we might have some calls coming in. We've got some calls lining up, so we will get to some very soon. We do have some screenshots of things that have happened whilst we're waiting for those calls to be screened. So I think we should just dive into at least one of these. And apparently these are like reactions to things that I've said. I don't know how long ago, because it's been a while since I hosted, but I said something. I was talking about Ken Ham's Ark encounter one time. which is here in Kentucky, and I still haven't been to it, and I must.
Oh,
I just don't want to give the guy my money, you know.
You're missing out. You're so missing out. It is
been?
Yes, I do, because I went out to West Virginia for an event, and it was on the way back home that I was like, hey, Lexington is just right there. Why not do it? So I was in my car. I toddled on up to Lexington, and it starts out like you're driving to Jurassic Park, and I'm just gonna let it go from there. So you're missing if you haven't done it, you got to do it once.
Lexington is very close. My son was born in Lexington. That's how close it is. So I have no excuse really, other than I don't want to give them my money.
It's a laugh riot. It really is. Once you get in there, now I'll give them this. They put the money in there. That's some Disney level. That's some Disney level animatronics. But once you start digging through it, it's kind of like. Yeah.
Well, but do they put the money in there because it's got some very serious leak problems?
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah, they did have to file an insurance claim for flooding due to excessive raining.
The irony in that, it's hilarious. I love it. But anyway, so this screenshot that we've got here, if you don't believe, why do you protest so much? I think there's look at I'm wearing the same t-shirt. For those who can't see, it looks like I'm wearing the exact same t-shirt. I think there's some closet believers here. Why do we protest so much, JL? Why do we talk about it so much?
Well, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but the reason I protest so much is not because I care what other people believe or what evidence they choose to ignore or whatever. I protest so much because of the concerted effort for a group of individuals in this country to try and legislate how I live my life or how others live their lives. It doesn't matter. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what flavor of Christian you are. I don't care that you are a Christian or that you believe in a God. But the fact that belief, you take that as a justification for dictating how other people can live their lives, including myself, my wife, anybody else. That is a line that cannot be crossed. That's not what our country was founded on. So when the very actions you do violate or seek to violate the foundational principles of this nation, that's when you have to take a stand. And that's why we protest so much.
Right. And I'm almost in the same boat. I come from a place where talking about religion isn't a thing. If you're a believer in the UK, generally you don't talk about it because you don't want to be ridiculed, because it's almost the opposite of here. If you say, oh, I believe in God, people will almost say, well, why would you bother with this sort of stuff? So when I moved to the States, it really flipped it on its head, and I wanted to keep quiet about it, but and I will keep harping on about this because it really irked me. I lost my job, I lost my income because of religion, because I didn't believe what the people who ran the business, even though it's not a Christian organization or a religious organization, I lost my job because I speak out about and this is nothing to do with religion, but LGBTQ rights. That was the main factor that I lost my job, because I had someone in a show that I was directing who was being very anti-LGBTQ, anti-human rights, and I said I can't have you around, and because I did that, the organization said, nope, you're not here, and they found other ways of getting rid of me. But so now I'm like, well, that angered me so much that religion is really it's got a hold on people here. It does, and people need to speak out about it. And I was okay. I can deal with losing my own job, but my stepdaughter came home a couple of weeks ago and said, you'll never guess what happened, Jon. At school today, we had a crew come in and they were doing some tricks with some apparatus. And then they told us about how they found Jesus. And this is a public school. And so they're forcing their beliefs in a place where you're not allowed to. And that really irked me and my wife, and so my wife wrote to the correct organizations that will help you out, and there is something going on now. So I will continue to speak out about religion and belief until we get to a point like in the UK where believers don't say anything because they are scared of being like, this is silly. Why do you believe this stuff? And we're at a point where religion doesn't govern what we do. And I will continue to do that. And that screenshot of me was terrible. My face, I'm so sorry for those that saw it. But yeah, there you go.
I'm skeptical. I think that picture was from earlier today.
It might have been. Maybe all of these.
It's exactly the same. Like down to the earpiece like placement, like the cord. It's exactly
the
same.
hair was exactly. The thing is, I only have 2 t-shirts. So I've got my evening t-shirt, which is this. I've put on weight since moving to the US. I can't help it. The diet here is terrible.
Not great. Anyway, not great.
Before we let's get into the first call. Let's see who we've got. Let's do it. So we have Jay. Pronouns are they, them in Australia. What I experienced right after my father's death. Hey, Jay, I hope I'm saying that right. Welcome to the show. You're on with Jon and JL.
Hello.
Hello, Jay. How are you?
Hey. Hi. How are you?
I'm good. You're in Australia? They've gone. Okay, well, it was nice to speak to you, Jay. Thanks anyway. We do have someone else in the line, and he's a fan favorite and an ACA favorite. We've got the Blind Limey. How you doing, Blind Limey?
Hello there, Chief and other Chief.
The Chiefs. We're good. Your accent's changed. Are you putting that on?
A bit. I just woke up not long ago. I've been on night shifts a bit again, so I'm kind of like a bit muzzy. But
okay.
This topic intrigues me. This topic brings back memories and thoughts. My ex-wife. This sounds like I'm starting a joke. My ex-wife, but my ex-wife was a very big believer in the supernatural. She was formerly practicing Wiccan. She was convinced things like ghosts were real. She was very superstitious about certain things. And for example, when she came over to England the first time, I took her to Stratford-upon-Avon because, of course, I lived quite close by. And she wanted to take, she had been asked by a colleague to take photos of the church where Shakespeare was married and things like that. So the church in Stratford. But she's absolutely deathly terrified of graveyards. And we walked up to it, and she took a moment to sort of compose herself, and then we walked through the graveyard, and I walked in, and it was like she just went rod stiff, like completely, like she was truly, truly terrified. Wow. Now, at the time, I was just supportive, and just walked her through and assured her that I was there. And of course, because I wanted to, be nice to my lady, I didn't comment or criticize or question or anything. But this became the norm. Like, she would have some supernatural thing, and then if I even dared to try and question it, she'd just completely, like, how dare you even, kind of thing. Huh. And so it was very difficult to deal with, and maybe that's part of why I do what I do now, is kind of like a weird, like, petty revenge. Like, I'll criticize supernatural. Shakespeare. And it's not just her. Like, a lot of my family are supernaturally inclined, believe in ghosts, believe that they're real, believe in all kinds of weird woo things. And every time it comes up, they're having this really enthusiastic conversation that I can have no part of, because if I say anything true that I feel is true, I'm going to upset people. And again, it comes to the point of, like, where do you pick your battles? And you might say that, well, it's harmless enough to believe in ghosts or think that graveyards are haunted. It's like, no, that's the same. It's what you were saying earlier in the show. It's the same ill thinking, the same irrational thought patterns that lead people to things like religion or bigotry, or that they are willing to put their feelings ahead of facts and right. evidence. And also, they're afraid of the unknown, so they'll fill it in with whatever they want. Ghosts, right? A ghost. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys have had anything like any experiences like that, or advice for people out there on how do you deal with people who have beliefs you don't?
Yeah, well, I do, but I'll let JL jump in first, and then I'll do one as well.
So as far as like dealing with individuals like that, and there's a certain point where you can't just die on that hill. There's a certain point where you do kind of have to back off if you want to maintain or sustain the relationship. But I can tell you firsthand experience that my mother and I currently don't speak because of this very thing. And it's because my mother is, I feel that my mother is one of the smartest people I know, in the world. Like the older I get, the smarter she becomes. And so, but there was a conversation we had a couple of years ago where my mother said something that was deeply illogical. And like the connective was not there. And, I've been running my channel for a while, and I come to recognize these things pretty quickly. And while not insulting her, did say, I was kind of shocked by that. We wound up into a conversation that got very, very heated very quickly. And unfortunately, she and I have not spoken since. So pushing the issue, and I think that was partly my fault as I pushed it. And so I can tell you that, if you want to maintain it, you got to pick and choose which hills you're willing to go on. If maintaining or sustaining the relationship, keeping the relationship is important to you. So just know where you can go and where you can't, I would say.
Right, and I actually have a situation coming up. I direct shows when I'm not talking on the internet, and I'm putting on a show in a very old wine cellar here in Kentucky, and the people that I'm with, a big majority of them would identify as atheist, but still believers, almost how I was back in my early 20s. Atheist, but believers in paranormal and the afterlife and everything. And we had an item in my show go missing for about an hour, and there was no explanation. It did turn up, but my set builder came to me and said, "I'm certain that was moved by another being. How would you feel about coming down and doing a Ouija board with me?" And I'm like, as a very non-believer, he knows that I am very skeptical about these things, that I don't really believe in any of the afterlife and ghost stuff until there's something that is, going to absolutely blow anything out of the water in regards to evidence. And I think I would like to go, because I want to experience this thing and see how they work in person. Because I only ever hear stories of, how Ouija boards work and the feeling you get when you're there doing it. I know that I will absolutely poop my pants, because I'm still, even though I'm a non-believer, it still freaks me out a little bit. Just because your brain does do those tricks. And I'm getting better as I get older at saying, come on, think this through, just really rationalize here. But I know that I will still have a little moment, but I do want to go and experience it. And I'm going to be like you, Blind Limey. It's going to be very difficult to not say this is so stupid. But I kind of just want to get involved and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. I've been actually sent a text message from someone who came to my door a while ago reminding me, "Oh, don't forget to join us at Bible study," because I said I would at one point to see what it's like. But here's the I'll be on my best behavior. No, but here's the thing with other people. One thing, I'm not exactly like you there, John. I am very much because I see weird stuff all the time, like weird shapes and apparitions and shadows, because my eyes are knackered, right?
Right.
So I can be startled, but very rarely am I scared of like places that don't pose an actual threat. Like I can go into a dark cellar, and the only thing I'll be afraid of is like, are there brown recluse down here, kind of thing.
Right.
Eaten out of me by insects.
Right.
Like there's many more things to be afraid of here in Texas than the ghosts, like rattlesnakes. But anyway, the government. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. But anyway, oops. But I'm absolutely an absolute wimp when it comes to horror stuff, like horror games and horror movies, and that I get scared real easy. But that's because, in the context of the fiction, the threat is real. It's
right.
It's, proven to be a problem. So there's that. And then there's times where people are they don't just get offended. They come back at me like I'm stupid. which is weird. It's so odd. I have a friend who's convinced they're haunted. They are haunted. Like they are regularly interacting with a ghost child that scratches them and like messes with them in their sleep, and they wake up with scratches on their body and stuff like that, and bruises. And they're thoroughly convinced they're haunted. And I said, and I had a conversation. Well, there isn't really much in the way of evidence for that, and I've never seen anything of the sort. And they said,
Right.
"Oh well, you're just spiritually dumb. Like you're not capable of interacting with the spiritual world." Well, there's a flipping unproved.
You've just hardened your heart to the paranormal. That's all that is.
Yeah,
Spiritually dead. Spiritually dead is something I've gotten.
Yeah.
yeah. The only reason you don't see is that you're not capable. You've closed yourself off to it. I'm like, where have I heard that kind of rhetoric?
Right.
Before?
And I feel like as people who like love talking about this sort of stuff, I feel like we're probably the most open to it. We want this stuff to happen to us because we would love to know the truth. So I feel like somebody who says that just needs to wind their neck in, because I'm sorry, I feel like I'm one of the most open people to having something. That's why I want to go to these Ouija board meetings, and I want to go and sit in these dark places with nobody else around and just see what happens, because I want it to be true. What a terrible existence if we don't get to live on forever, you know, and hang out with our loved ones. I mean, actually, no, some of them, no, I'm fine not seeing. But you know what I mean? Like, if this is it, oh, well, okay, sad, but, you know, I'd love it if it was true that I could come back and really terrify my kids as a ghost one day. That'll be awesome.
Yeah. And I'll leave you with this. It was another part of this conversation that I had with this friend, because they were having trouble at home and thinking of moving. And I offered to let them stay at my place for a while. And I said, "Oh, I warn you, I am haunted. You're going to have issues." I'm like, that doesn't bother me at all. to quote the song, "I ain't afraid no ghost."
Right.
Right.
I feel like there's like a business model here that we can sell for Halloween. And I'm not saying that we should do this. It's just, a silly idea. But we could sell haunted underwear or something, you know. If you want to be haunted this Halloween, buy our haunted underwear, you know. We should get Blind Limey. I nearly said your real name then. You call me. We're gonna make this happen.
Okay, yeah. Spooky Pants Incorporated.
Spooky Pants.
There's an LDS joke in there somewhere.
Oh yeah. Man. There's so much we could do with this.
Haunted, they're just magic.
That's true. Well, thanks for calling in, Blind Limey. It's always good to hear from you.
Right, take care, guys.
See you soon. That was good. Okay, well, so before we get to more calls, there's like a list of things that we have to do just to say, like, get through all the stuff before we get on to more. So, as many of you know, we have initiated phase 2 of our brick fundraiser. We want to highlight some of the standout orders we've received, and this week's featured brick comes from AB from California. You always get more of what you tolerate. Well, that's fair. Thank you for your purchase, AB. You can get your brick at tiny.cc/ACA bricks. You can also become a channel member by clicking the join button below the video. This will give you access to special chat emojis and early access to YouTube shorts and clips. Also available on the atheist-community.org website are printable call-in flyers. Post these, with permission obviously, to community bulletin boards so that people know how and that they can call our show and defend their position, whether it's faith or spiritual or anything like that. You can also email Truth Wanted at truth@atheist-community.org or hyphen, however you say it. You can reach out to the ACA at tv@atheist-community.org and see what's been going on at our website at atheist-community.org. And last but not least, I hope they're ready. I'd like to thank the crew. So if we can bring up the crew cam, just say, there they are. Look at their beautiful faces. Thank you to all the video operators and audio operators, mods and note takers, and the call screeners, and our backup host, Kelley, who right now is looking at rocks. I just said his name and it really, I got him. But thank you, everyone. There's so many people involved behind the scenes, and it's just it's a big old team that make all this happen and make folks like me and JL look fairly competent. I mean, JL's very competent, but me, it's questionable. So we've got some more calls coming in, but we will just jump to some more. We'll jump to another screenshot just whilst we're waiting for those to be screened. So again, here's another one, and I wonder if I'm wearing the same t-shirt as last time. Apparently, when I was talking about immorality in the Bible, which it sounds like something I would say. Okay, so this screenshot is without God, tell me why anyone should care. Oh, I'm not wearing the same t-shirt. Great.
No, it's the evening shirt. It's the evening shirt.
It was a different shirt.
It's a 50-50.
Yeah, right. It was going to be one or the other. So without God, tell me why anyone should care about anything that's in the Bible. Why should we care about anything that's written in the Bible, JL? Or should we even?
I would say as much care, or you should care about it as much as you would care about any kind of ancient collection of tomes or ancient tomes from the ancient world. While obviously, I mean, discussions about, whether the God exists or not aside, there is some kind of value to that as far as like a kind of lens on history, like a look at history through the lens of ancient Jews. Okay, that's one perspective. It's a perspective that you can add to it. It's data that you can add to it. So I would say, as far as kind of like just looking at our ancient past, looking at the past of humans, sure, it has some value there. Some interesting stuff. The stuff we believe, no different than Greek mythology or what the Romans believed, or the Egyptians, or the Norse, or Native Americans, or Mesoamericans. So it all kind of like compiles into that. But as far as that goes, yeah, I mean, pretty much relegated to that.
I was having a conversation with someone on the internet, because that's where I have a lot of my conversations. I don't like to do face-to-face anymore. I just do it all on text. But somebody, exact same thing, telling me that the Holy Quran is the correct book, and that I'm stupid for not accepting what that says, and I don't know anything. And when she's asking, she was saying something about... well, where did the earth come from, and how can you explain that? And when I give explanations and say, I mean, I don't know, but I don't fill the gap with a God, she was calling me stupid and that I don't know anything because it's all written there in the Holy Quran. And I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter which holy book you believe in until it's demonstrated that any of them are inspired words of gods or from gods. I don't give two rats' bottoms about what they say. And neither will I until somebody can come up to me and say, look, here's the God that wrote it or inspired the writing, and this is what they meant. And, there are so many things in most of these holy books. I can't say all of them because I've not read all of them, but the few that I've read little parts of have contradictions. They can't all be, like, every part of these holy books cannot be right if they're contradicting each other. So if there's parts of these books that can't be right, what's to say that the whole thing can't be right? Demonstrate that these things are really from gods, and I will maybe then start to accept. But until then, I can't.
Like, if all of these things require existence being the first order property that it is, and the thing must first exist before you can attribute anything to it. If you think the Bible is true because the God exists, you first have to demonstrate that God exists. That's right. Just how the chain goes. So you got to start from there. Once you can demonstrate it, then we can start asking additional questions. But we got to address that first one. That's the important one. So,
but the book says that it exists, JL. It says that it exists.
Okay, just because you're a circle on the internet doesn't mean you should appeal to that.
That's right. You're right. I'm sorry. Jeez. And listen, I've got some of these screenshots are hilarious. Here's another one. Oh, I was talking apparently about a time that the Bible didn't belong in science museums. And I'm excited for the T-shirt more than anything. But you just don't want to believe in God because you think the Bible doesn't like homosexuals, but he loves everyone. Also, my beard, for those who can't see, my beard looks great at this point, and a completely different outfit again. So I'm okay. I'm on board with this now. So you don't want to believe in God because you think the Bible doesn't like homosexuals, but he loves everyone. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I think the whole they're an abomination and put them to death. The whole the stoning thing, eliminating people that you don't like, or you think are wrong. Yeah, that kind of contradicts that whole thing. And the whole Christ come along, I've not changing the old laws, keeping the old laws and such. Yeah, that's deeply problematic.
And it's not just homosexuals that, sometimes it's children. Sometimes it's whole other ethnicities. It's people that the God goes, I don't like them. Let's get rid of those. It's not just like a small group of people. Sometimes it's a lot. I mean, not that homosexuals are a small group of people. That was a silly thing to say. But you know what I mean? It's not just like, sometimes it's masses of people that there's God. Sometimes it's an entire planet of people other than one family.
It's true. Whether they believe something different, whether they behave in a different way, whether they look different from you, whether they call you bald. There's all kinds of reasons as to why, just like, nope, off with their heads. So
the only way to get through this, to get past this, is to carry around some lamb's blood and just put it above your front door every day, just to make sure. That's the only way we're going to be safe. Exactly.
How would the omniscient entity know not to touch you without that sign, right?
No lamb's blood. Get them. No lamb's blood. They're fine. Move on to the next house. It's all very silly. Oh my God, I'm so sorry that it's all me. Apparently, a time that I was still talking, but it's going to be the same outfit because it's another time that I was talking about the Bible not belonging in science museums. So it's going to be this beautiful black T-shirt and a hoodie for those people that can't see the screen. I'm going to describe myself because I'm so handsome. I'm not. Yet, there's no science in evolution. It's based on assumptions. Assumptions isn't science. What? It's not. It's a very different time. I thought there was going to be. I apparently say the same thing over and over again because I'm wearing a red T-shirt again. What have you got to say?
Salmon T-shirt.
Salmon. Yeah. I brought it from.
I apologize. The thumbnail on that caught me. It took me a long time to get used to thumbnails capturing you at the worst possible moment in a video. Right. So your thumbnail caught me off guard. Sorry. What was the statement again? Because I was trying not to laugh.
Yet there's no science in evolution. It's based on assumptions. Assumptions isn't science. Although I'm pretty certain that out of all of the scientific theories, that one has the most to back up the theory.
So we ask questions based on working if a thing were true. So we say if a thing is true, then if X is true, then Y should happen. And that's how we do it. Then if Y doesn't happen, then we can eliminate X as being true. So no, it's not. It may start with kind of operating as though a thing are true in order to develop that model, but it does not it's like, oh, we're assuming it's true, therefore no. It's like the assumption that naturalism is true. And that's not where we don't assume naturalism is true. Naturalism is our access to the world. If you can demonstrate that we have access to something other than the natural world, we'd love to know that. I'd love some evidence for that. So we start with what we have, the tools we have access to. And so we're not making it doesn't start with assumptions. It starts with the acknowledgement of what we have.
Right. And somebody didn't go, I'm just going to guess this happened and then go and look for this evidence. Yeah. Darwin, for instance, didn't go, I think all species are related. Let's go and just double check that I'm correct on that. And then he went and saw all these finches. No, that's not. It was the other way around. He saw this and went, hang on, I'm observing something here. Maybe there's something in this. Let's do some more research, and we can observe, you can see evolution happening. There's so much to it that you can watch it happening almost in real time. It takes a little while, obviously, in some cases, depending on the species, but you can see changes happen. So
with the predictive models that we see, all you have to do is look at various things predicting tectonic, predicting not only where it was, but how deep we'd have to go to try and find it and what it would look like. That if our understanding is true, then we go to X place, Y depth, and we will find Z specimen that looks like this. Bam, it comes true. Not to mention every single advancement we've made in animal husbandry, agriculture, and medicine over the past 120 years are built upon our understanding, our understanding of evolution. So no, it's at this point that flat Earth.
It's just another one of those. It's not true. It's not true. Someone on the internet says evolution is not true, so it's not true.
What I truly find is a lot of. I know I'm digressing here, but what I truly find is that a lot of individuals kind of run this whole thing simply because the idea of it contradicts the Bible or contradicts aspects of their religion, what they've been led to believe, what they've been convinced of, and they generally have not been introduced to the idea to the fact that there is no contradiction. There's no logical contradiction in the entity existing that they happen to believe in and the way it interacts with everything being of naturalistic means, that, naturalistic theism. There's no logical contradiction there. They do still have to demonstrate that the God exists, but they can say that God can exist, humans can exist, and the book could be entirely wrong.
Right.
You don't have to put that stock in there because it's, humans are fallible. We make mistakes. The book could be entirely wrong. You can take it piece by piece, but the reality goes, there's no contradiction there. You can accept the evidence and still hold the belief. You can reconcile those two. Maybe that'd be an option. I think that's where the education comes in. It's so important.
Right, and if we were to take every single book on evolution that was ever written and put them in a fire and burn them all, and then wait for a few 100,000 years, or maybe not that long, and then go back and go, how is this happening? The same thing would be noticed. That science is there because that's what has been observed.
Exactly.
So that's where we are with that. We do have another call on the line. Would you like to say hello?
Hello.
I think it'd be good. So we've got Sheri, pronouns are she, her, in Maryland, went to a haunted lighthouse when she was a teenager. That sounds interesting.
Oh,
Hey,
cool.
Sheri, you're on with Jon and JL. How's it going?
Hi, yes, my name is Sheri. I went to a haunted lighthouse when I was a teenager. My dad was into ham radio. And so for one holiday, it was around New Year's, they did an event. And my dad got to set up at the haunted lighthouse that was off the coast when I was living in Florida. And it was interesting. It was a little weird. I went to the bathroom and they had signs on the doors that says, please fully close the door because the ghosts like to open it. And that was weird.
That sounds like a ghost that has some problems.
Yeah, I know. That was my first thought. I'm like, so the ghosts want to see people peeing? That's kind of creepy.
Right.
And then later on, the groundskeeper came and he's like, okay, we haven't had any ghosts other than moving things around in the lighthouse itself, but we've had people see dead people in the grounds, and there's a gate, and if you go by the gate and it's really foggy, you'll maybe see the old lighthouse keeper, and he'll curse at you for being on his grounds. I'm like, okay, so they're territorial as well.
Yes, right. So Sheri, are you a non-believer in it, or do you like hold on to some belief that this could be a thing?
At the time, now I was a teenager at the time. I'm an atheist now. At the time, I was a believer. So I kind of like, oh, okay, maybe I was still very skeptical, but I was like, well, maybe it's true. I don't know. Maybe I'll see something. But we didn't really see very much. I mean, the lighthouse was very creaky, but it's an old lighthouse. I didn't really think that had anything to do with the ghosts. But yeah, we didn't see anything at the time that we were there. I did not know because it was my family. So it was me and my sisters and my dad. My sister apparently is very superstitious, and she was we didn't tell her at the time that the lighthouse was supposedly haunted, and I guess she didn't go to the bathroom. So when she found out from me that I went, the lighthouse was haunted, she freaked out. She's like, "Oh my gosh, we went to the haunted lighthouse!" I'm like, "Yeah, we did."
Wow.
Nothing really happened, though.
That's awesome. So when I was a teenager, because I felt like we're going to bond here, Sheri, with some old teenage memories. I went to a school that was apparently haunted, and we filmed a short film in the basement there, and it was the most terrifying thing because things like would creak. And at the time, I was such a believer that I was like, "There's someone here with me. I need to get out. But there was a rumor that if you ran around one of the oak trees out the front of this school. It was an old house that was built in I want to say it was like the 1300s or 1400s in the UK. I'm from the UK. Everything's very old over there. And there was an old tree. And if you ran around the tree 15 times and looked up at the top right window, the lady of the house would appear. And I can't tell you how many times I tried that as a believer and never saw anything. So, I'm so gutted.
Yeah.
So gutted.
Yeah, it's like you kind of want something to happen, and it's kind of like, oh, nothing really happened. Oh well.
And even as a skeptic, as a non-believer, you want to go. You go. Oh, I want something to happen so that I can go. What is this? How can I explain this?
Yeah.
I went to just to make you feel a little bit better, Sheri. I went when I was also a believer. I went to a spiritualist medium who was a massive showman, and he had about 2,000 people in the audience at this one time, and he reassured everybody that ghosts won't ever enter a bedroom. So when you're doing the thing, it's okay. They won't see. And I assume that's the same with bathrooms. So don't ever worry if that belief comes back. Go to a bathroom. They won't watch you pee. You'll be fine. And I've got that from a spiritualist medium. So, you know.
Open the doors.
You're right. Right. That's so bizarre. So you said you went with your dad?
Yeah, I went with my dad and my two sisters.
Okay,
and so they had a blast. Go ahead.
Okay. Are they still believers? Your dad's still a believer?
My dad is. My sisters are not. Both of them, all three of us are now atheists.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How would you feel, though, if your dad said, come on, Sheri, we're going to go to this haunted location. You're going to come with me and we're going to see what happens. How would you feel about that now?
I'd be like, okay, let's see what happens.
Would you really?
I would be like curious as to see if something happened, but it would be still. You'd have to like rule out everything that's it's a creepy house. They make noises. Doors open sometimes. Our husky locked herself in the bathroom one time. That was
dogs do that. That's cool. Would you do a Ouija board with your dad?
Oh yeah, I probably would. That would be fun because we could see if the house is haunted. That would be
right.
It would probably
how do you explain
just
that?
Be him moving it around just to
right. That's what I'm worried about because I've been invited to do one, and I'm almost certain that they're going to be all caught up in the moment and go, let's just start moving this around because we want some answers and let's guide these spirits. And I feel like that's maybe what I would do is I would move it. Oh no, I can't. I don't know. Would I maybe spell out "this isn't real" and see how they respond to that? They'd know it was me.
Yeah, with my dad, it's interesting because he's religious, but he's not huge religious. And the area, northern Florida, is very superstitious. So you'll get all of our neighbors saying superstitious things, and my dad was always like, okay. And I could never believe in any of the superstitions because I was born on the 13th. And it was in October. And nice. I turned 13 on Friday the 13th, and there was a full moon that night too. And
this explains so much.
So superstitious.
Right.
Yeah, because the area is so superstitious. I was so self-conscious being 13. I told no one.
Wow.
The only people who knew were my family. I didn't tell any of my friends or anything like that until like a couple days later. I'm like, yeah, I'm 13 now. We won't discuss when the exact day was. And
wow,
like because there was so much superstition about that. And the other thing was like I used to work in OBGYN in that area, and it happened where it was Friday the 13th, and the ladies came in that they were pregnant, and they're like, "We don't want to give birth today. We don't want to give birth today." And I'm just like,
"What?
Okay."
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was one of the few times where like. So the ladies were like, "No, we don't want to give birth right now. We can wait for tomorrow."
Just cross your legs. Just
okay.
Take that epidural out. I don't want it.
That's what day I was born on.
Right. I think that would be great. I'd love to have been born on a Friday the 13th. I was born on an 8th on a Sunday. It was terrible.
The 3 best days you could be born on is you be born on October 31st, you could be born on a Friday the 13th, you could be born on February 29th. Those are the 3 best days.
Yes.
Exactly.
What about April Fool's Day, though? I do feel like maybe April 1st is a good one as well.
Okay, I could tag April 1st on that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. There you go. Well, did you said you didn't experience anything else other than this sign on the door? No, like cold chills or anything when you're in this haunted?
Nope. Unfortunately, not. Just some weird signage and the people saying that we can't go past a gate because we might see somebody curse at us.
You see, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Ghosts need to know not to swear.
That's right. Yeah, true.
And it's interesting you bring that up, like the cold chills or like cold spots in that respect or other strains like that. When I before I started doing like the YouTube thing full time, my day job was an HVAC technician, and so when I got my certification and started going into like homes and going into like large residential areas and working on this stuff, working on ductwork, working on electricity, and of course working with other various things, how like construction, a lot of these things wind up getting debunked because once you start understanding how heat transference and how these things work in a house, like how things play out in a house, all of a sudden, like those weird noise, you can hear a weird noise. I can pretty much tell you, that's going to be that part of your heating system that you point that out, go there, fix it, and the thing goes away. So, I always found that really interesting is that once you dive in and start really understanding these things, they kind of debunk themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I feel like these are good therapy sessions. We can just talk about our experiences, just get it out, and go. Okay, I'm past that now. I'm good.
Yeah. Once I left Northern Florida, I didn't. I guess because I grew up there, I was so used to it. I get out of that area and I'm like, wow, not everybody's really superstitious. Oh my gosh, that was just that area? Oh, okay.
Wow.
So Sheri, I have a question because you just mentioned Florida, and I hope everybody is recovering as best they can from the recent hurricane that just came through there. So all the best to all of you out there. Be safe. But I have a question about that. Obviously, I think anybody who dabbles in these areas is familiar with the area known as Casa Daga. So, or Casa Daga, however they happen to pronounce it. Are you familiar with that town, with that unincorporated town?
That sounds like it might be farther south from where I was. I was mostly northern Florida. I was living in the Pensacola area, which is like as far north and as far west as you can get and still be in Florida. So that might be something. I mean, we did have, so it's a beach area. And there was talk of seeing lights in the sky in the beach area over at Gulf Breeze. But no, I think that might have been farther south for me.
So yeah, the reason I ask is because, and I'm checking it right now. So yeah, Casa Daga is a little bit. It's kind of like southwest of Daytona Beach. So is where it's located at. But it is a town. It's an unincorporated town in Florida that is almost entirely populated by psychics. It's like the whole town is just like Psychicville. And so you can get all forms of tea reading and palm reading and tarot reading and all they kind of flock there. And then it's an interesting little thing about Florida that I found intriguing when I came across it. And I was like, I've always kind of wanted to visit there myself. I may swing by there on my Devil's Seat tour that I'm going to be doing here. I have it planned for next year when I'll go around the country and sit in devil's chairs and see what happens as kind of an experiment. I think it should be fun. I don't think anything is going to happen, but you never know. So, but yeah, you mentioned Florida, and I immediately thought the psychic town, the town of psychics. So
yeah,
it's crazy that you just said psychics because sometimes you can tap into these things, and even as a skeptic, you can tap into the psychic things. And I'm kind of getting, Sheri, that maybe in a couple of days it might be your birthday. For some reason, that's just come to me.
Really? You just now? Really? Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, it's going to be Sunday.
Wow! And I don't see. Sometimes it just happens to you. You just get like a little thing that goes. You see it in your head. You see it on the chat on the screen, but you also see it in your head. And I just got that for all of a sudden, Sheri, that it's your birthday in a couple of days.
Yeah, it's going to be my birthday on Sunday, so that's going to be fun.
There you go. Well, happy 24th birthday. Well, I just made up an age. I don't know how old you are. Me too. Me too.
Actually, sadly, I'm older than that. I will say it's the ultimate answer is what I'm going to be.
No way.
Nice.
I'm very close to that too. I get
Nice.
you. I like that.
Oh,
that's
you
a good one.
youngins.
Jay, I'm sure you dye that grey in your beard, JL. I'm sure you do. Well, Sheri, it was nice talking to you. Thanks for giving us that story. And I hope that your future haunted experiences are equally as non-eventful.
Yes, I agree. All right, you
just for an easy life.
Night.
Thanks, Sheri. You take care. That was good. I love all the haunted stories that do go nowhere, because when do they ever go somewhere? When?
And there's those interesting locations like that, like a lighthouse, because if you think of the idea of lighthouses, there's kind of a mystique to them. They're
right.
They're kind of like they have this idea like they're kind of like of the old world when ship navigation, but nowadays we don't really. A lot of them are like falling apart. They're in disuse, or they're sold off their residences. I know that there was like one for sale up in Maryland at one point that you can actually just go buy and live in, but they have this kind of like mystique about them. The old the history of America. And then combine that with our I would say very special, our very unique relationship with the sea in and of itself, like humans in the ocean. It's the history there is incredible. Not to mention, it's the ocean itself, like the people that have been lost there, spirits of the sea or whatever, and of course all the mysteries that occur out over the ocean, atmospheric phenomena and such. You combine all those together with someone who already accepts these things to be true, and it's a perfect recipe for creating an environment where you just kind of confirm what you suspect. And I always find that kind of, you always see those patterns. There's like old graveyards, old lighthouses, old pubs, you see that a lot too.
And also old wine cellars, like the one I'm in. Oh, wait a minute. It's like Hell's Bells. We'll bring that up again in a minute. That's great. That's great. We do have another call, and it's Jay again. And Jay, we tried to speak to Jay, but they accidentally got disconnected. So we're going to try and speak to Jay again. Hopefully it will work this time. Hey, Jay, you're back again with Jon and JL. How's it going?
Hi, Jon. Hey, JL. How you going?
Good.
Good. So, thank you.
The screener says that you've had events after your father's death. Now, first of all, I'm very sorry to hear about your father's death, but it's interesting to hear what these events are. So lay it on us.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was a few years ago now, so I'm not so fresh. But there's one. Are you there?
Yeah, we're still here. Yeah,
we can hear you.
Oh, sweet. One, I can chalk it down to imagination, but there's a little bit of a spooky thing in it. And then another one is a little bit hearsay of someone else's story. And then another one is it's kind of sweet, and I've got a bit of a naturalistic explanation for it. And then there's one that's just, it is what it is. And that's as far as I've gone with it. So which one do you want first? Do you want the
Let's go through. Let's go through in order.
Okay.
Oh, did we lose Jay?
Oh, did we lose Jay again?
Oh, Jay, don't. I'm excited to hear these. Oh no!
It's those damn emus.
It is. You know where I'm from, we call them emus. Oh, man, if you're there, Jay, I hope you can come back. I'm just going to put you back in the queue just to see if the screener can hear you. Whilst we're waiting for Jay. Hopefully. Oh, they dropped. Oh man, I was excited to hear about that. So close. Well, okay. Let's get back into the screenshots. We'll give Jay one more chance to come back, because I really want to hear. Jon was talking about the Bible not belonging in science museums. Which shirt is this one going to be? People are not animals. We are created in the image of God. We didn't evolve from slime. A different shirt again. Oh, I'm glad I've got more outfits than I let on. So, JL, people are not animals. We're not animals. We were created in the image of God. We didn't evolve from slime, JL.
So obviously, I think that's two straw men and a begging the question that's in that is contained in there. So, but yeah, like you not understanding that the term animals is not kind of like a character distinction. It's a taxonomical distinction. It's how we describe things. And so taxonomically, we are classified as animals, but it goes a little bit further than that because there's a lot of steps in between Homo sapiens and animals. So acknowledging that, because you'll find that they'll agree that we are, they'll agree up to a point. Typically they'll agree up to the point that we're primates. Sometimes they won't do that, but there'll be a cutoff when they say, no, we aren't that thing. Like they'll agree we're eukaryotes. They'll agree that we're mammals. They'll agree that we're vertebrates, but they won't agree to these particular things because of the connotations, the pre-existing connotations in their head. So there's that. Obviously, evolution doesn't make that. Evolution doesn't make the claim that we came from slime. Abiogenesis is not making the claim that we came from slimes. That's a complete straw man. And of course, begging the question. You have to demonstrate your God exists before you can say that it created anything. So
right.
I just love it. Just fallacies just raining from the sky.
Straight out of there. But JL, if we evolved from monkeys, why are there still monkeys?
I love it. It's what I've gotten it. I love it when I hear the classic ones because I have these conversations sometimes, on the internet as well, on Discord and places like that. I haven't yet embraced TikTok yet, but I've gotten and I thought I was being trolled, but no, it's the legitimate misunderstanding of how we classify these things. And so, you first at the start, for anybody who might be curious about this, just remember, I'm not going to go into the whole thing. I'm not like Forrest Valkai over here trying to step on his toes, but humans and chimpanzees and gorillas and orangutans and bonobos, as you see them today, did not exist millions of years ago. They didn't. So we're all evolving kind of like on our own paths, not at this, typically the same rate, but these animals, these organisms didn't exist then. And we are linked because we know we're linked because of phylogenetics and we see those overlaps. So, but yeah, remember that the monkeys that exist today did not exist millions of years ago. It took time for them to get there as well, just as us to get to where we are.
Just like your cousins are in the same generation as you are, that's exactly how it works. It doesn't look like Jay's going to be able to come back. So,
bummer.
I know. I was really excited for that as well. So, we can wrap this up now and say thank you, JL, for joining me and being a part of this experience. I had a great time with you.
It's my absolute pleasure. This is great. Any opportunity to help and kind of progress things and push the ball a little bit further down the field for the goals that we share. So thank you.
So where can we find you, JL?
You can find me at my YouTube channel at JL Warren. You'll recognize it because it's Bridge the Divide. There is another channel called Bridge the Divide. They're a band. They're actually not too bad. But if you want to check out my stuff, it is at JL Warren, youtube.com/@JL Warren, and you'll recognize it. It's Bridge the Divide. You can check out my content there. I've got new stuff coming out every week, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you do, like, share, subscribe. If you don't, if you don't like it, whatever. But I hope to see you over there.
There you go. And I better reiterate the We Want the Truth segment, because I forgot to say earlier that you need to leave your comment and we'll read out the favorite one. So just so we've got it, complete this sentence. You're screwed when your horoscope says blank. So comment on the video and your comment may be read on next week's episode. So just tune into the beginning of next week to hear the top 3 answers. We also did have a super chat from Hell's Bells. What a great amount, by the way. That works. I've been to Cassadaga. It's like Camelot, a silly place.
It is a silly place.
I feel like saying that Camelot's silly, though, is like saying that the whole of England's silly, because I just feel like Camelot and England are the same, right?
Well,
maybe.
But you get the. I'm sorry. I don't want to assume you get the reference, though, right?
No, I don't.
From Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Python.
Right. On second thought, let's not go to Camelot. It is a silly place.
I'm sorry. Now I do, and I just look foolish. I'm sorry. It's been a long day.
Any chance to flex my nerd cred, I swear.
My son is transitioning from bottles to cups, and it's been a long day. It's terrible. We also do, if you want to stick around, we're going to be going to the atheist community of Discord after show. You can join us there at tiny.cc/ACD Discord. And And we're going to just spend a little time. We need to thank Kelley, who's always here helping out.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear, Kelley, hey, how's it going? We'd like to hear your answer to the question of the week. So complete the sentence. You know you're screwed when your horoscope says what? You'll need to unmute as well. There we go. He's going off on one. You need to press that unmute button, Kelley, before you... There you go. How long have you been doing this?
I do that because I am muted during the show, right? I always forget. I think... I don't, you know what? I didn't even think about this one at all, to tell you the truth. But how about something like, you know, you're screwed when your horoscope tells you to stop reading horoscopes.
There you go. Maybe the horoscopes are more screwed then. And also, Kelley, so there's a part of a ghost story that you have to tell.
Yeah, I worked in a nightclub for many years that was supposedly haunted, and I experienced a lot of things while I was there. I can't say that I ever actually saw a ghost, but I did have a few weird experiences, and there were several people there that claimed to have seen the ghost. And some of those were pretty weird. Like one guy started working there, saw the ghost the first night he was working there, and quit the very next day. So, you know, did he actually see a ghost? I really have no idea, but he claimed he did, and he quit his job over it. So,
wow, that's a lot.
So I thought, you know, if everybody wants to come over to the after show, I can go into some more details because I worked there for quite a few years and experienced quite a few things. So
okay, yeah, well, head on over to the ACD Discord then. We'll all hang out and talk about ghost stories. But again, thanks JL for hanging out today, and thank you awesome. for being here. And we'll see you next week for some more Truth Wanted.
Watch the non-profits and join the hosts in the live chat. Visit tiny.cc/YTNP.